into the role of leading trust and safety for your company, your first step is to get a lay of the land. Specifically, you will need to identify the issues at hand. What disruptive behaviors occur, how prevalent they are, and how they have been managed so far. The talent you have. How big is your current trust and safety team? Do you have the skills you need, and how will you grow the team? Lastly, the data you collect and process. Do you have the data you need to solve the problem? And if not, do you have the support to get them? The earlier you identify what you don't have to succeed, the better off you are to set yourself up for success.
Connected to Bermuda. Strong signal. Bullet. 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 Signing in.
Your company may not be aware of the toxic behaviors that occur on your platform. It is likely that your first task is to identify what those behaviors are as well as their prevalence. Let's look at two strategies for discovering unwanted behaviors. The first uses internal resources, and the second is working with a vendor who can conduct an assessment on your behalf. It's not unusual for an organization to be in the dark with regards to harassment or abuse on its platform. Leadership may have an idea of these issues exist, yet not know the frequency or prevalence or how toxic content compares in volume to all content shared on your platform. In many cases, complaints come in through the customer support group, which usually isn't set up to track or resolve these kinds of issues. Customer support may be in a position to help you determine the extent of the problem on your platform. Ask them how many trust and safety type tickets are reported each day, week, month, year, and how quickly the team handles these requests after tickets are submitted to them. Anecdotal and edge cases illustrate the type of incidences that can occur on your platform without robust and a proactive trust and safety policy and a technology in place yet. A good place to collect that anecdotal evidence is through user surveys. Consider adding user surveys of all users who leave the platform, especially among those who leave due to toxicity, so you can understand the severity of behavior. These surveys needn't be long. Just a multiple choice question or two, and the user is leaving the website and installing an app, deactivating their account, and so on. Some trust and safety technology vendors will run an assessment of your platform to identify issues. Such assessment will help you confirm the issues exist and have a sense of their severity. Typically, the vendor will ask you to send a sample of real data, such as texts and chats from your platform in order to conduct the assessment. For an assessment to be as useful as possible, the rule more data is always better is generally true. I would say a minimum of 1 million rows of data or 1 million individual chats and all of their accompanying metadata should be sent for analysis. However, the amount of minimum data needed will be based on the size of your platform and how many messages are sent on average, as well as what models you intend to deploy in order to find particular behaviors. Certain behaviors, such as CSAM and radicalization, are very rare, but carry a very high risk. The 1 million rows of data you send over may be too small to surface these interactions. The likelihood of these types of comments are 1 in a million is sometimes too small. The cyclical nature of the data should also be taken into account. Ideally, looking at a longer period than a single day. Your potential or current vendors assisting you in the assessment should give you a list of data requirements and be able to explain why they're all necessary to the process and the end goal. The ultimate goal of the assessment is for you to have an understanding as to the prevalence of all identified behaviors on your platform and whether any patterns can be drawn around the individuals who were flagged for these behaviors, such as age, lifetime on the platform, or the combination of behaviors seen in tandem with one another. Think of your trust and safety efforts as a muscle. You have to use it in order to strengthen it. As the platform grows, the number of users and the volume of toxic content grows. And so must your trust and safety efforts in order to meet these challenges. Let me share some ways you can acquire an awareness of the human capital challenges along your journey ahead and learn how to plan accordingly. Generally speaking, when trust and safety is new to a company, focus tends to be on the manual process to triage user reports. At this stage, you need employees who are tasked with receiving, classifying, and resolving tickets that come your way. As the ticket volume increases, you are likely to focus on tools and workflows that can help you assess reports, track the outcomes, and ensure that the workflows are followed correctly. This will be your first insight into the types of behaviors that are being reported and determine the tools and policies you need to develop and to foster a positive community. At this stage, you would desperately need employees focused on building and evolving community policies, developing the tools and workflows, and analyzing the results. As your platform grows even more and the ticket volume continues to rise, you will need to hire or outsource to a team of moderators. And you're likely to shift your focus to automation using artificial intelligence or AI. Questions you are likely to ask include, can AI help you prioritize which tickets your team should look at first? Can AI automate routine actions without human intervention? At this stage, you will need employees who can drive trust and safety product management and engineering, or a project management liaison, who can interface between trust and safety operations and the counterparts in TNP. Trust and safety is still an emerging field. Many people don't yet major in trust and safety in college. There is also very little training currently available for trust and safety professionals. This means one of the first challenges you will face as you build your team is who to hire. As a direct pool of candidates with relevant trust and safety knowledge and experience is relatively very small. You will be tasked with writing a thorough job description for the skill set you will need. As it's unlikely you will find the candidates with direct trust and safety experience, you will need to think about the skills you need most to take your team to the next level, and which can be transferred from other roles not traditionally associated with trust and safety. This brings us to the next challenge, variety. Trust and safety requires skills that cross multiple disciplines, from product development, engineering, and operations to a knowledge of legal, compliance, and moderation best practices. The level of skill diversity is extremely high. When building out your team, your first few hires will be incredibly important. You will need people who can look at the big trust and safety picture as well as respond to individual tickets. If trust and safety is new to your organization, your initial team members will need to be more generalists. People who can handle a wide range of situations, from responding to legal subpoenas to angry parents stating their children are harmed on the platform. Later, when you start implementing more proactive and preventative measures, the Trust and Safety Department may separate into two distinct teams. One that responds to the tickets and another to handle proactive measures. Proactive measures in trust and safety require moderation technology adoption, which in turn relies on what, where, how data has been stored, processed, and used. It's digging so you can gain a greater awareness of the challenges you might face when designing your data infrastructure for proactive trust and safety measures. Technology, particularly contextual AI, can vastly augment your platform's ability to moderate what goes on in your platform. But AI is only as good as the data it's trained on. And that leads to a number of challenges all trust and safety professionals need to think about. Now, about acquiring data to train your model. All AI tools must be trained on data. And the more data you have, the more precise it is labeled, the more accurate it will be detecting unwanted behavior so that you can act on it. In order to have your tool find the desired bad behaviors to surface on your platform, specific example data must be found within the training set so that the tools can be trained for what to specifically look for in the future. If real-world examples on your platform are not in the training data, your tools will not have the ability to find them in the future. Complicating matters further, the behaviors you want to detect and stop will be very specific to your platform. If you offer a gaming platform geared towards young adults, you may tolerate a certain amount of profanity, or what your users call trash talk. But profanity has a little degree of tolerance in other platforms, such as Marketplace. On top of that, there is no one model that can capture every behavior you want to detect. You will likely need multiple models, such as a model for hate speech, a model for misogyny, a model to catch narcotic sales, and so on. Some behaviors have a much greater prevalence within a platform, such as profanity, which is 20% or more prevalent within some gaming platforms. Others are far and few between, but when surfaced are incredibly serious, such as CSAM. If you know that a behavior is infrequent, but you cannot take the chance of missing it, you will need to look at much larger data sets in order to detect this behavior from the get-go for model training purposes. Now, you need to feed your AI model an ample number of positive and negative examples of the behavior you wish to detect. That means each piece of data must be labeled as a positive or negative example of hate speech, insults, profanity, and every other behavior you want your model to detect. A person's ability to label data accurately will depend largely on his or her background, culture, and life experiences. Bias can be built into your AI model if you don't ensure diversity in your data labelers. A labeling best practice is to only label for one behavior at a time in the dataset, and to always have an odd number of labelers, no less than 3 individuals who have been equally trained in their labeling practices. If they do not all agree on a label, you can have a majority wins rule for selecting the final label. Make sure your labelers understand why a certain label should or should not be used. And this
I gotta go to another meeting, so that puts that into perspective. I know that when you look at me, there's so much that you just don't see. But if you would only take the time, I know in my heart you'd find that I'm busy. I'm busy and I gotta go. All right, God bless y'all. Talk to y'all later. Bye. I wish I could pause it until after this meeting, but I can't. So, mm-mm.